And welcome to On Cue. I'm your host, Eric Olson. On today's program, we're talking about several programs in our community that focus on our students. What's more important than that? For our youngest learners, Amy Baskin from Austin Public Schools visits with Anna Otto about how toddlers learn. Catherine Haslag joins me to share how mentoring has greatly increased student participation in the science field. And Jennifer Lawhead is here for an Austin Aspires update. Stay with us. On Cue is next.
From KSMQ Television in Austin, this is On Cue, connecting interesting issues and interesting people. On Cue.
Hi, I'm Amy Baskin, the Director of Community Education for Austin Public Schools, and I'm here in the home of Anna Otto. Anna is a parent with 4 young children, and she has been very active in our early childhood family ed program, and we're here to talk about child development.
Hi.
Good morning, Anna.
Good morning, Amy.
We know that children's brains develop. 90% of their brain development is between the ages of 0 and age 5. Mm-hmm. And you have your oldest daughter is going into 2nd grade, and your youngest is how old?
He's almost 8 months old.
Almost 8 months old. So you've had quite a bit of experience with young children and learning how they develop.
Yes.
And we know that language development is really critical for young children.
Yeah.
So how does that work in your family? Are you a talkative family or a quiet family?
You could say we're a very talkative family. And I always think maybe the next one will be quiet because everybody talks so much. But we haven't had any quiet ones, which we love. We talk a lot.
I was quiet.
And each kid is really different.
Okay, what do you need now?
How one kid develops is a lot different than the next and the next. And what works for each kid is much different. For example, when Clara was born, Lucy was 2, and so Lucy did all of the talking for her for quite a while. And she spoke much later than Lucy had. And then same with our 3rd son, Oscar. We've noticed it took him a while to start talking, but when he started talking, he talked pretty much all the time.
And as a parent, did you realize that how much you interact with your children really impact how much they talk? Or is it just something you naturally do?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I would say our oldest probably talked the most because we talked with her the most because we had so much time to give her undivided attention and have conversations with her. It's natural for me to talk to them, and even with Gus, who's our littlest, he's only 8 months old, but even when I'm cooking dinner and things, I'm talking through like, okay, now I'm boiling pasta, now I'm putting butter on the pasta, and so he hears so much talking, and he hears my husband and I dialogue, and he of course has 3 siblings that he hears talking all the time, so it's kind of a natural.
It's true.
It's true, and it's kind of hard for everybody to get their words in sometimes because there's 6 of us.
But that's wonderful. But I'm sure you've seen with Lucy in elementary school how much her language development has probably helped her academically.
Oh, absolutely, yes. And it's helped her read earlier, I think, because she knows a lot of the words when she's sounding things out. There's a lot of words that she already recognizes because they're already part of her vocabulary.
So talk a little bit about the differences in child development. When you had your first child, did you think your second child was going to be just like that?
No, I thought she was going to be quiet because our first one was so talkative. And then Clara came along with her own personality, and she talks quite a bit. And she uses different words. You know, they're different kids, so they have a different set of things that they say. Clara came home one day and said that day at school she felt excluded. And instead of saying, "Oh, I'm so sad," I was like, "Clara, you know what excluded means." That's so exciting.
And you know, the research all shows that you need to listen to your children and respond to them, but you just do that naturally as a family, and that's really neat.
Yeah, thanks.
And there's a lot of families, I think, that are very quiet, and we've I think I told you about my friend who's very quiet, very introverted, and wasn't talking to her children at home, And I think parents don't realize that it's so important to talk to their children all the time.
Right.
And as hard as that is sometimes, just to point out different things.
An eyeball.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
how do you do that? So say you take your children to the grocery store. What are some things that you do with them?
That's a great question. We do a lot at the grocery store of things like, can you look for letters? And so Clara, because her name starts with a C, she'll look for things that start with a C or that have a C in them and point out C's wherever she goes. And Lucy will look for L's, and we do that on road trips a lot too.
So a lot of things when children 0 through age 5, there's so much brain development, language development, there's so much social emotional development. What are some of the things that you do with your family to make sure that your even youngest one is being involved in social emotional development?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, he's really in the center of things usually. So he's used to being passed around. And we do a lot of, can you make Gus smile? Can you make him laugh when he's sad?
Can
and
I
so
go do a craft, Mom?
Sure, you can.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry.
That's okay. So he's very involved with everybody else. He's kind of in the center of what's going on often. A lot of times we're always watching him all kind of at the same time. So and he's at an age where he's really picking up on everybody's facial cues. You know, he sees somebody smile and he'll smile back, or he's starting to wave,
Oscar's here.
that kind of stuff. Hi, Oscar.
Blah, blah.
Hi, Oscar.
Hi, Oscar.
And you do a really excellent job of having your kids use their words. So that's
Yes.
really, can you talk a little bit about that? How do you do that?
Well, especially with Oscar being 2, he'll have a tendency to point at something and just kind of make a noise. And we very often have to say, can you use your words, please? Or, you know, what are you looking for? What are you looking at? And really taking a step back and having to say, okay, calm down. I can tell you're upset. Can you use your words?
And did you realize that by doing that, you're helping your kids to regulate their emotions?
Now I see that after having 2 girls that are a little older, but mostly it was for my sanity.
Right.
Just saying, please use your words, because I can't read your mind, or I don't know what means.
There are children that come from families that don't hear a lot of words, and there's actually a 30 million word gap by the age of 3 for children that come from families that just don't talk a lot. And so by you talking a lot and allowing your kids, and even though it can be challenging at times, allowing your kids to talk is really setting them up for success in their future. So all the things that you're doing just a great job. And I know you have your family, you've been involved in early childhood family education for a long time.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about the classes? Do they give you some support? And
Yes.
help?
Oh my goodness. So the Baby and Me class when we first moved here was awesome. And I took Lucy to that, and she was probably only 6 weeks old when we started that. And the support of other parents was huge. And with your first child, going through everything for the first time, and not having done it before, and having other parents that had done it before and said, well, this is what we tried for either discipline, and not that discipline was really an issue at the baby phase, but things like sleep training, or do we sleep train, do not sleep train, and the pros and cons of all the different, it's kind of the whole, it takes a village. It takes a village to raise a child.
Well, parenting is really hard work, and I don't think people get enough credit for being parents.
Sure.
It's the only thing that you do that doesn't have a manual.
Right.
You have this little being that is you're responsible for, and you don't really know what to do, and especially
Right.
that first one.
Do we talk about how being a mom is the hardest job, but it's also the most
Yes.
the most
It's the most
rewarding.
amazing.
Yes,
Right.
it is the
It is
most
the most
amazing. Yes.
Well, thank you for
Yes.
letting me come into your house today. I really
Yes.
appreciate visiting with you and your children, and
Thank
you're a
you.
great
Is it
family
over?
and a great mom, and we really appreciate what you've done.
Thank
We have a
you.
lot of resources available. Austin Public Schools is very committed to early childhood education, and if you would like more information on our early childhood programming, we invite you to come to our website, Austin Public Schools website, and take advantage of our classes. This has been a special presentation of KSMQ On Cue. I'm Amy Baskin. Thank you for watching.
You can find out more about Austin Public Schools community education classes on Facebook.
You can watch On Cue anytime by visiting the KSMQ TV website, ksmq.org.
Welcome back to On Cue. Do you remember your science fair project? Maybe you were back in, I don't know, 4th grade, 5th grade, all the excitement, and then standing there at the card table in the gym with all the other kids doing their science fair projects and kind of looking here and there and being all nervous. Well, we're trying to build that tradition once again in Austin, and there's an innovative new program that's just been introduced. This is going into its 2nd year, and Catherine Haslag from Riverland Community College heading up this program, Science Fair Project, and it's a mentoring project, really.
Yes, we've taken the mentoring opportunity into the schools, and we work with the kids after school to help them develop science fair projects. We recognized that there were some students who weren't getting the help that they needed to complete the science fair, participate in the science fair. And so we started working on a way to help them.
Now, and you're a college chemistry teacher by trade, and you're reaching out to very young students. Is this an idea to is there a problem getting students excited about science careers and the like?
Actually, what I noticed, I moved here in January of 2011, and I started working as a volunteer for the science fair as a judge. And I noticed that there were students who, for whatever reason, weren't quite putting together the connections when they were doing their science fair project. They could tell me what they did, how they did it, what happened, but if you asked them to tie their experimental information to the concept that was supporting their experiment, there was a disconnect. And other students, you could tell that they had done the best they could, but they just weren't quite, they needed help. And so I started talking with some people in the community and discovered that there were socioeconomic issues, language issues. There's, I think, 190 different languages spoken within the Austin Public School District alone. Parents who are working so many hours that they can't help their children, or they aren't science-minded to begin with, and so they really can't help their children through with those kinds of projects. And so this project is designed to help address some of those barriers. We bring mentors into the schools to work with the students so they have an adult guiding them through the process. We purchase all of their supplies so they don't have to worry about money being tight at home. We help them with that.
So you started as a judge.
Yes.
And noticed as you were going through good ideas, but maybe you could see that there might have been more resources that this student could have used. Is that where this all began,
yes.
This mentorship idea?
Yes.
And so you have this board or a small group of volunteers, mentors, right? And then do you talk to the school about identifying students that you might be, or do you talk to the parents? How do you get together with the students?
Last year, what we did was we looked at a couple metrics at the elementary schools here in Austin. One of them was which schools have the highest minority populations, because those tend to be the ones that have language barriers and socioeconomic barriers, or maybe lack of education. And we identified Sumner and Evelyn as the 2 schools that met those criteria. We also looked at schools that received the most free and reduced lunches, and that was also Sumner and Evelyn. So that's why we chose those 2 schools to work with last year, because they seem to have the highest population of students that would benefit from this program. Eventually, we would love to offer it at all 4 schools, at which time we'll probably have to have a more structured application process to help those students.
Are you developing the materials that you're using yourself, or are you using a guide for science fairs?
I have a group of people that work with me on this, that we work together as a committee, and we've looked at books and the internet and come up with projects. Some of them we've taken straight off the internet, and others we've adapted from books to work within the time constraints and at the school we've got. But we've been pulling these materials together to use with the students.
And working with the school district, is that the public school district, is that a challenge? Because I know teachers are so busy and they have their lesson plans and they know what they need to get through. Is that a challenge bridging that to make sure that they're doing the good work in these science fair projects that you're trying to promote?
The schools that we've worked with, the teachers have been very supportive and very helpful. We've got 2 teachers at one of the schools that have championed this from the very start, and they've continued to work with us through this year. They are excited to have us at their school and working with their students, and they see the value of this project and are very happy to help us in any way they can.
And you are looking for mentors, folks to volunteer and help you, right? Work with the young people. Talk a little bit about how our viewers can help out.
We would love to have mentors to work on this project. You don't have to have a science background. We have an orientation that everybody goes through so they learn cultural sensitivity at the school, how to enter the school because there are certain doors you can't enter through. And we take them through the scientific method and how to apply it and how things are going to work at the sessions with the kids. So they have a background. If you have a love of children and you want to work with these students, please come. We do need mentors for this coming academic year. We plan to start working with the students come November, and probably that will go through the first week of March. It was when the science fair was last year, so probably that's when it's going to be again this year.
And through Riverland, do they contact Riverland Community College or?
Actually, we have 15 community organizations that work on this project. Riverland is one of them. This project is actually headed up by the American Association of University Women, of which I'm a member.
Sure, okay.
And if you want to find more information about this, you can either email me at cshaslag@gmail.com, or you can email the project at sciencefairmn.gmail.com.
And we'll double check, we'll put those on the screen too to make sure that's, get the addresses right. And the time commitment is November through early February, March. And it's once a week or once a month, or how often do people get together with their mentor, the students?
Right now we're planning on working with them 1 day a week after school. Usually we start about 2:30 and we're done by 4. And we do that when school's in session. So we wouldn't be working with the kids over Christmas break and things like that.
And even though you've only just done this 1 year, you're seeing results, aren't you?
We absolutely are. Last year, the 2 schools we worked with, we had 102 students from our project alone that participated in the science fair. The year before, those 2 schools had about 35 students that participated in the science fair. So we have seen an incredible increase in the number of students that are participating in the science fair because of this project.
Oh my goodness, so you're educating them about science fair and helping them get through it.
Absolutely, yes.
Oh.
And they were very excited to work with us and to get to do something new that they had never been able to do before.
On a global level, how are the genders in science careers? I know at PBS we do a fair amount of research about girls and women in science careers, and that being kind of a problem area, or it has been. Are we seeing any improvements there, if you happen to know?
It is still a male-dominated field, but there are more and more women joining the science field. It's not as divided as it used to be, but there's still some ways to go before the inequality there is equally addressed.
So does one student every year make one of those volcanoes that you put the battery and then it all comes flying out, or the salt that connects the battery so the light goes on? And those?
We actually try to prevent them from doing just demonstration projects.
Oh, okay.
We try to teach them what a variable is, so that there are things that they are changing about their experiment, and that it's not just a exploding volcano, although they all still wanted to do volcanoes.
Actual science is what that would be, unlike my experience, I guess. So everybody, there's a day where you can go and see all these projects?
Yes.
At the school, where the public is invited?
It's called the STEAM Expo, and last year they held it at I.J. Holton. And I'm assuming that's probably where they'll hold it again this year. And all the students come, and they've got trifold boards that they put together, and they can explain all about their project. And once the judges are done judging, then I believe it's open for parents and family to come in and observe their children and see what they've done.
It's really a fun time, a science fair, as many of you might know. Thank you so much, Catherine Haslag, volunteer coordinator for the Science Fair Mentoring Project. Very good work.
Thank you so much for having me.
And On Cue will continue right after this short break.
Queue up your own comments for On Cue and send them to us at onq@ksmq.org. On Cue's Vision 2020 segment is brought to you by Hormel Foundation, Games People Play, and Turtle Creek Estates.
Austin Aspires was created in 2014 as a result of the Vision 2020 discussions about education. Executive Director of Austin Aspires, Jennifer Lawhead, joins us today to tell us more about what she's been up to. Welcome.
Thank you.
You were here last just when it was getting going. Give us a little thumbnail about what you do at Austin Aspires.
Yeah. So I've had the great privilege to spend the last year meeting with folks in our community to talk about what educational excellence looks to them. So I've met with students in the community, which was incredible to hear from the student point of view what they need to achieve educational excellence, talk to teachers, community members, and compiled all that data to say, what does our community say we need for students to achieve educational excellence?
And you know, folks, most communities don't have this opportunity to really have an outside bunch of experts come in and kind of do surgery, if you will, on our educational system. Because in my experience anyway, with kids in the schools, you hear about things like test scores, like individual things about the education of your young people, and that gets attention, like test scores every year. And the last few years in Austin have been a little bit on the downside. But as we were talking beforehand, that's just one part of the puzzle.
Right, and I think that's why Vision 2020 education leaders selected collective impact as the model that we would use here in Austin, because collective impact says that the social problem, if you would call it that, of education in our community is not just the responsibility of our schools, that our whole community has a role to play in educating our young people. And so collective impact says we're going to gather people from philanthropy, from schools, from businesses, from faith communities, all to gather together around our kids, around a common set of goals to say, here's how we're going to support our students as they move toward that goal of educational excellence.
I just can't imagine I call it herding cats, which is just when people are so busy. I mean, you look at this list of people you've got together: Hormel Foods, the Foundation, Mayo Clinic Health System, Austin Public Schools, Pacelli Catholic Schools, Riverland, and that's just
That's just
some
the
of
start. Yeah, we're incredibly fortunate to have a community that's so supportive of education, to see all the folks that gathered together for our leadership table to look at what our community said about educational excellence, and to look at the commitment of the leaders in our community who have a million things to be doing for their work, but have taken the time to talk about education and how we can support our children best. It's incredible.
And you boiled it down into a few things that you've learned in talking to all those people.
Yeah.
What are they?
So we looked at what our community says we need for educational excellence. We looked at what the numbers in our community say about test data, arrest rates, different metrics that are out there. We also looked at national best practice and funneled those all three together and say what all three sets of data say that we need in Austin. Then the 5 themes that are emerging is that we want high academic achievement. We want our students to achieve at the highest levels. And there are many steps along the way to that piece. We talked about the importance of parents and that they're our first and best teachers for our students. We talked about physical, social, and emotional wellness, that you can't learn if you're not healthy in all those areas. We talked about access to opportunities in the community, so that yes, Austin offers lots of opportunities for kids, but do they know about the opportunities? Do they know how to access, and do they have the capability to access those? And then we also talked about kids entering a college or a career in an area that they're passionate about, not just stepping into a career because that's what someone told them to do or that was the only option available, but for kids really to know what gets me excited, what can I do with my life that I will joyfully bound out of bed to do. So those are our target areas for our work.
And you're going to soon be, I have to have you back to do a longer segment. This is just in the context of Vision 2020, but you're going to be looking for more community help as we go forward.
We will. So once at the end of October, we'll have our goal statements firmly established, and then we'll be looking for folks in the community who are passionate about particular areas. Let's say you have a real passion about parents and educating parents about how to be the best mom and dad that you can be to your child. We'll want folks like that to join our action teams to establish how do we know if we're achieving our goal? How do we measure that? So we're not just hoping that this work works, that we're really measuring kind of like a pre and post test kind of implementation, and then also looking at what's really going well in Austin and how do we take something that's going really well and grow it bigger so it has a wider impact in our community. So we're going to want students in the community to join our action teams, on adults from not just our schools. I think that's a really critical piece, that our volunteers don't just reflect our staff of our schools, that we have people coming from the business area, from our churches, from our nonprofit agencies, taking a collective look at our students.
And accentuating the positive strengths finders, that's so important. Thanks, Jen, very much.
Thank you.
And they have a Facebook page, by the way, and that's the best way if you want to sign up and help, get information, go there, Austin Aspires on Facebook. They also have a website, also austinaspires.org. Well, that'll do it for us right now. I'm Eric Olson. Thanks so much for joining us here on Q. We'll see you next time.
On Cue is a production of KSMQ Television in Austin, nonprofit public television.
You can access more information about KSMQ on Facebook and at ksmq.org.